Hello, I'm Mike and this is Will. We are the Tabletop Donkeys.
Hello.
And we're bringing you issue 24 of Warhammer Age of Sigmar Stormbringer magazine today. And this issue came with the first of a new faction, a Loonboss for the Forces of Destruction. And we're also learning about heroic actions, which we'll be able to see in today's game. So looking for the issue, first up we have some background on the Gloomspite Gitz, and these are a conglomeration of the various cave-dwelling creatures, so mostly the sneaky little grots, but also various troggoths and other subterranean beasts. So the grots are maybe small, but they are cunning and vicious, and capable of the same level of destruction as their bigger green-skinned kin. And they are influenced by something called the Bad Moon, a celestial body that sort of zigzags crazily about the cosmos, causing madness. So influenced by that and the various mushrooms they like to imbibe, the Gloomspite Gitz sort of attack randomly without warning, cause vast destruction with various vast hordes. Because they're so small, we can obviously fit a lot of grots in the little hidden passages. And they're accompanied by these vicious squigs and troggoths, as I said before. And then getting some background on another of the Grand Alliances, the Grand Alliance of Chaos, the various forces of the Chaos Gods, the mortals, mutants and demonic creatures, who just generally sort of hate the forces of Sigmar and their designs to bring civilization. But they also hate the forces of destruction, a bit oddly. It's just because the forces of destruction like to destroy things at random rather than service to any greater power. So you can see the five major Chaos Gods. We have Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle and Slaanesh, the sort of the big four, who are worshipped by many different mortals. So the followers of Khorne just generally believe in bloodshed and glorious combat. Forces of Tzeentch use a lot of magic, but are also subject to multiple mutations and various other things, and come up with various plots and schemes. Forces of Nurgle see themselves as bringers of life, but are really just spreaders of plague and disease, while the forces of Slaanesh seek to fulfill all of their darkest desires, regardless of what everyone else wants. And then down the bottom, the Great Horned Rat, which is the god of the Skaven, and also a deity of ruin and decay. And their followers have their own twisted schemes and like to destroy all on their path, sometimes with this odd warpstone-fueled magic, or with their own diseases. Then some background here on a place called the Hidden Gloaming, also known as Orgish, which is a sort of pocket dimension in between the realms of light and shadow, where both of the shadow magic and light magic, a bit like matter and antimatter, are kind of fusing with each other, and it's all very bizarre. And he mentioned Shadespire, which is a setting for one of the Warhammer Underworld's seasons, I believe they're called, where the inhabitants of Shadespire were cast into the Hidden Gloaming, were driven mad by the conflicting magics there. Well, the Hidden Gloaming is also the prison of Slaanesh, the Chaos God, the more ancient enemy of the Elves. And so through trickery and arcane means, the Elves were able to trap Slaanesh within Orgish and begin to free the trapped souls of the Elves that Slaanesh had devoured. However, various forces of Slaanesh are trying to free their Dark Master, and the magic around the prison is also weakening over time. But then we have the battle record for the Loonboss. So these are the leaders of the Gloomspite Gitz. So they might be small, but they are very cunning. It's a different kind of strength. So you can roll a name and character trait for him here, rather than using the other tables we've had so far. And then on the other page, you can roll a surname for him, and then it's got his great deeds and a unit name. And then the build guide. He's actually a very simple model to put together. Quite a few parts for such a small model. The only really complicated thing is his head and helmet are 3 separate pieces. So you'll want to put the head, you have to make sure his ear goes out the slot for it, and then glue the other half of the helmet and his torso together, and then you can use the mould line remover and a bit of excess glue to file down the join in the middle, otherwise it will look quite bad. Other than that, he's fairly simple. Do need to be a little bit careful how you position on him mushrooms, or there'll be a weird gap between one of his feet. And then in the painting guide, he's not too dissimilar from the other destruction models we've had so far, so starting with Auric Flesh, although most of him himself is actually armour, so it's mostly Leadbelcher. A bit of Avalan Sunset for his helmet in the shape of the Bad Moon, Wraithbone for some small details as well as the mushrooms, and then Catachan Flesh for the wood. And then Catachan Flesh for the wood and his base. We're going for Mephiston Red on a couple of the mushrooms, and then base coating Corax White on some of the others, and then using Griffcharger Grey, although some of the other mushrooms are still to paint. So that's a look at the issue. Hand you over to Will, and we've got a lot of new rules to learn.
So we'll have the rules for our new Loonboss in a moment, but first we've got some more of the core rules, starting off learning about battle rounds, which we've mentioned before, but I'm not sure if they've ever been officially defined. The battle round is just the combined turn of both players, so when both players have their turn, that is a single battle round. And it also mentions the priority roll, which we've learnt all about before. but it does also clarify here that if the priority roll is tied, then whoever finished deploying first has priority if it's the first battle round, otherwise it's the player who went first in the previous battle round who has priority. And it also mentions starting command points, and we'll learn about command points, what those actually are and what they're for, just below. The important thing here is after it's been determined who is going first and second in the battle round, then the player going first receives 1 command point and the player going second receives 2 command points. Down here we do learn about command points. So command points are a resource that lets you use something called command abilities, which are essentially things that make your army be able to do special things during the turn. As it says, you receive command points at the start of the battle round after priority is determined, as we learnt just above. And in addition, if your general is on the battlefield, then you receive command point as well at the start of the hero phase. So it's both players' hero phases. And at the end of the battle round, any command points that have not been spent are lost, and then you'll get some more in the next one. Yeah, command abilities are special abilities that can be used on units, and you must spend a command point to use one. You have to pick a friendly model to issue the command and a friendly unit to receive the command. The range at which you can do that depends on who is issuing it. So a unit champion can issue a command to their own unit. A hero can issue a command to a unit within 12 inches of them. Your general and any unit with the totem keyword can issue commands to a unit wholly within 18 inches of them. And a model cannot issue more than one command, and a unit cannot receive more than one command in the same phase. And you cannot use the same command ability more than once in the same phase, and we'll learn about some command abilities in a minute. Over the page we learn about the hero phase, which works as we've expected, but it does go over here with the sort of things that happen in the hero phase, so receiving command points, issuing command abilities sometimes, wizards casting spells, and some other things that probably won't come up in this collection. One thing that does happen is something called heroic actions, which is another ability that heroes gain. In the hero phase, each player can pick one unit with the hero keyword to do a heroic action, starting with the player whose turn it is, and there are 4 that you can choose from. So first up we have heroic leadership, so if you pick this one, then you roll a dice, adding 2 to the roll if your general's been slain. On a 4+ you receive a command point, but that can only be spent by the hero who did the heroic action. Heroic willpower essentially lets you pretend a hero that is not a wizard is a wizard for the purposes of being able to unbind a spell. That works exactly the same way as it would if that hero were a wizard. Their finest hour means that when you pick that hero, they add +1 to wound rolls and +1 to save rolls for attacks that target the hero until the end of that turn, but you can't use that more than once per given hero in the same battle. And finally, heroic recovery. If that hero has taken damage, then you can roll a heroic recovery roll on 2d6, and if the roll is equal to less than that hero's bravery, then it heals d3 wounds. You can only use that if it's more than 3 inches from enemy models, though. And finally, we have our first command ability, listed under hero phase command abilities because that's when it's used. It's called Rally. You can use it at the start of the hero phase. The unit that is receiving command must be more than 3 inches away from enemy units. And then for every model in that unit that has been slain, you roll a d6, and for every roll of 6, you can return 1 slain model to the unit, so representing the hero rallying disheartened survivors of the unit. So that was quite a lot of information, but you'll see it in action in the battle, and there's also a tutorial here to go over some more of it. So first up we have heroic actions, and it just goes over all 4 of them, explaining them in a little bit more detail and when you might want to use them. And the same with command abilities, so first it clarifies which units can issue commands and to what, then command points and when they're received, and finally an example of the rally command ability being used to return a slain gut ripper to this unit. Then last we have the Loonboss's Warscroll. It has a 5-inch move, a 4+ save, bravery 5 and 5 wounds, armed with a Moon Slicer which has a 2-inch range, 5 attacks that hit on 3s, wound on 3s with Ren -1 and d3 damage each. It's just a model on foot, so it doesn't have any mounts or companions or anything, but it has a ward of 6+, a bit like Gala's Steel Soul can ignore damage like that. It also has an ability called I'm da Boss, now stab 'em good, so when it issues the all-out attack command ability to a friendly Moon Clan keyword unit in the combat phase, then in addition to the usual effects of all-out attack, for every unmodified wound roll of 6, it causes a mortal wound in addition to the normal damage. We haven't got to that command ability detailed for us yet, but we will do in a future issue, and then that will be useful. Also, we don't have any other Moon Clan units, so he can only shoot to himself at the moment anyway. And then a tutorial on the other side, firstly for his Dead Trixie ward, and then how I'm the Boss, now stab 'em good works. And again, we don't know about that command ability yet, but when we do, it'll be quite handy. And now we're on to our game. So our backstory is that there has been discovered in the realm of Shadow a large rocky hill that is less saturated in the shadow magic than some other places, so it's a little bit easier to figure out what's going on when you're up there, and so both sides are trying to build a watchtower upon it. So for the Stormcast Eternals, we have the Lord Aquilor leading 4 Praetors and 5 Vindictors, whereas the destruction side is our new Loonboss, leading 3 Manskewer Bolt Boys, 10 Gut Rippers and 10 Hopperot Slitters. So here's our battlefield. We've got our 2 battle mats once again on the sort of orange desert side, with L-shaped deployment zones in the corners. Deploy our units as usual and then place the primal layer scenery pieces on the battlefield in the same way as usual. The game will last up to 5 battle rounds, or until one side is completely wiped out. Or it'll be a draw if both sides have models left at the end of the game. And a special rule called the Burden of Command means that the first time one side's general is slain, they can set up a hero from their collection wholly within their own territory and more than 9 inches from any of the opponent's models. So here's our battlefield. We've got our 2 mats down and we've deployed all the units on the terrain. So I've just got the Lord of Kulor and the Praetors on the board. The Praetors are going to bodyguard him. The Vindictors are off the board with Scions of the Storm to arrive later. And here we have the destruction deployment. In the middle you can see our new Loonboss, Korbol Kneecutter.
Yeah, and around him I've got the Gut Rippers and the Hogrots at the front line, and then the Bolt Boys tucked in just behind the Hogrots.
So now we're just rolling off for priority for Battle Round 1.
Get it in the box. It's a tie, so...
Well, I finished deploying first, so therefore I have priority. And I think I'll go first because I'm in range of the Bolt Boys. So we'll go on to Stormcast turn 1.
Yeah, so I picked my Dirty Trick now. I'm going to pick Noisy Racket. As far as the magazine says, it should apply to the Loonboss as well. I'm not entirely sure whether it only applies to Cruel Boys units or to my units as a whole. So we are going to say it applies to him, because it's not going to make too much difference. But if you do know whether it would apply, leave a comment.
Yeah, bear in mind the magazine doesn't always actually give us the rules properly speaking, or forgets things, so that might be worth. And then, well, technically actually before my turn begins, we get command points. I get 1 because I'm going first. Destruction get 2 command points because they're going second. Then we're into the hero phase where we both gain another command point because our generals are alive. And then we have to decide about doing heroic actions. Now we both decided to go for heroic leadership to generate yet another command point potentially. Since it's my turn, I'll go first, so needing a 4+, I did, so I'm going up to 3.
I don't, so both on 3.
And then we'll move up like this in the movement phase. The Praetors ran to get themselves a whole inch further forward. They're still in range to bodyguard the Lord of Kulor. And at the end of my movement phase, I will bring down the Vindictors from Scions of the Storm, get them further forward essentially, so they're 9 inches away from those Hogrots. In the shooting phase, the Lord of Kulor is just within 12 inches of the Bolt Boys, so we'll shoot at them. There's 4 shots hitting on 3s, hits only twice, and he's winning on 4s because of Noisy Rackets. Well, only 1 wound anyway. Last one. Okay, so no save, so 4 points. And I may as well declare a charge with the Vindictors in the charge phase. They'll need a 9. No, a 7, so they do not get in. And that'll be the end of my turn. On to Destruction, turn 1. In the hero phase, we both gain another command point because our generals are still alive. And then we also get to do another heroic action. And then we get to do another heroic action. And I might as well do heroic leadership again. It's actually the Destruction turn first.
Yay! Up to 5.
Up to 5, and I'll do it as well. Yeah, up to 5 as well. We don't need them at all this turn, but we're showing off how it works.
So, in my movement phase, Bolt Boys are going to stay where they are. The Hogrots moved across to get most of them, all of them in just about in range of the Vindictors. Loonboss ran to get to the other side of the Bolt Boys, while the Gut Rippers ran just to get them into position to block off that little avenue between the 2 terrain pieces. Start the shooting phase with the Hogrots, going to throw their grenades at the Vindictors. So only 9 of them in range, so 9 shots hitting on 4s, getting 4 hits, wounding on 3s, getting 2 at -1.
No 4+ saves, we take a wound.
So I'm going to, I've already got the Bolt Boys, we're going to put some precision shots into the, we'll go for the Vindictors, just to secure that flank. So 4 shots, hitting on 2s, 6s do mortal wounds instead, so it's 2 misses and 2 ordinary hits, these wound on 3s. Getting 1, -1.
4+. Nope.
It's 2 damage.
So we'll kill that one and wound another. So 1 Vindictor dead overall.
I'm not going to charge with the Hogrots. I'm not going to have a fun time against 4 Vindictors. And the Loonboss round, so you can't go with them.
And they're bravery 7, so they don't need a battle shock test. So at the end of the battle round, all these command points go away unused, but we showed off how they were generated, which was the important thing. And we'll be on to the next battle round. So we'll be rolling off for priority again. I've won again, so I'll go first. So on to Stormcast turn 2. Same deal as before, I get 1 command point, Destruction get 2, and then we gain 1 each in hero phase because of our generals. My heroic action this turn, it's going to be the Lord of Kilor's finest hour. So he will get +1 to wound rolls, and he will add +1 to his save rolls until the end of the turn. We can't do that thing again.
I'm going to do heroic leadership though. Nothing else.
Also at the start of the hero phase, I am going to issue the rally command ability. We'll say we're issuing it from the Vindictor Prime on her own unit. I could issue it with the Lord of Quilor as well because he's in range. It doesn't really matter on the Vindictors because they're missing one. So I spend a command point going down to 1, and then I'm missing 1 Vindictor, so I just need to roll 1 dice. On the 6 it comes back. Oh, it did. So we've got that Vindictor back. They've moved up into the face of the Hobgrots. Can't go any further around because there's stuff in the way. And the Lord of Quilor and the Praetors have moved up towards the Gut Rippers. We'll have some shooting from the Lord of Quilor first. He's going to shoot the Bolt Boys again. 4 shots hitting on 3s. Oh, they all hit. Now these are going to be wounding on 2s now because Noisy Racket is over and he gets +1 to hit because it's his finest hour. +1 to wound rather, sorry. So they all wound. And
it's 4 damage, down to just the boss on 1 wound.
And then all 3 units are going to charge, so I'll just roll them in sequence.
I will try and use Scare Shields on the Lord of Quilor though, to see if I can spook him out of his finest hour. 4 + 2 is 6, that's looking at one.
I'll roll the Lord of Quilor first actually because he will want to get out the way of the Praetors a bit. He rolls a 2 and fails. There's nothing I can do about that. Yeah, well, never mind, we'll have to do the Praetors then. They roll a 4, that might fail as well actually. Well, that was actually just enough, but anyway, we've got the Vindictors next. Right, well, a 6, that sounds quite good compared to the previous ones, but anyway. Yeah, so Lord of Quilor's finest hour not going too well, just going to have to stand there, but the Praetors just about make it in and the Vindictors going into the Hobgrots. Then we'll be on to the fight phase where I'll pick the Praetors to go first. Unfortunately, because of the poor charge roll and the terrain being in the way, we can only get 3 of them in range. I've also just remembered that Scare Shields doesn't work on heroes, so would have done it on the Praetors or the Vindictors instead, but rolling a 6, they're both great behind that, so it doesn't matter. Praetors have 10 attacks because the Prime is in range, hitting on 3s, 7, and wounding on 3s, 6.
6 plus saves. We made 1, 5 dead. 5 Gut Rippers dead. I'm going to do the Hobgrots next, so they can see if we can kill a Vindictor or 2 before they all get obliterated. So we'll pile them in. They can fight. They can just about get it. Because they're on 25mm bases, that's slightly less than an inch, so the guys behind can fight if they're in base contact with the guys in front. So 21 attacks from Hobgrots, hitting on 4s, 6s are an extra hit. So we've got 11 hits, 4 of which are 6s, so 15 hits. Wounding on 5s. 7 wounds.
7 3+ saves. Oh, we made more. And the Vindictors get to hit back. 11 attacks hitting on 3s, 6s do mortal wound instead. We've got 1 mortal wound, and 5 normal wounds, of which we get... 5 normal hits, of which we get 3 wounds, so we'll kill 4.
Finally, I've got the Gut Rippers. 11 attacks on 4s, 6s do mortal wounds instead. 3 mortal wounds and a mighty 2 hits, getting no more wounds, so we'll just kill a Praetor. So
that's the results at the end of the combat. Both the Hobgrots and the Gut Rippers need to make battle shock tests.
So Hobgrots are bravery 4, so I'm just wanting to see how many run away. 3, I'll take that one if we roll it with a banner. The remaining Bolt Boy runs away, and the Gut Rippers lose 1.
So on to Destruction turn 2, we both gain another command point at the start of the hero phase for having a general.
Yep, I'm going to say it's the Loonboss's finest hour.
And I'll try and get a command point with her leadership. Oh, I do. So I'm up to 3 that I can't spend.
So in the movement phase, the Gut Rippers and the Hobgrots are going to retreat. So if I get priority next turn, I can rally one of them. Well, the Loonboss is going to get 3 inches away from the Vindictors. No shooting from the Hobgrots, so straight to the Loonboss's charge. Well, he's in with an 11, so he's straight into the Vindictors. He has 5 attacks hitting on 3s, hitting 4. Wounding on 2s because it's his finest hour. Oh, that was lucky. 4 wounds and -1.
Pause. Failed 2.
So 2d3 damage to the Vindictors. 3, so we'll kill 2.
Yeah, kill the wounded one in the night. And the Vindictors will pile in. I'm going to bring the Hobgrots back into the fight because then if Destruction do win priority next turn, they can't be rallied because they're engaged. We'll put all our attacks on the Loonboss, so we've got 7 on 3s, no mortal wounds, and 3s again, 4.
4 plus saves, made 1, and then 3 6 plus wars, made none, down to 2.
Yeah, he's 4 plus because he's 4 plus base, -1 Ren, but then +1 because it's his finest hour.
Well, then the Hobgrots can pile back in, 7 attacks on 4s. So 3 plus 2, 6s is 5 hits. Moving on 5s. Getting 1.
3 plus. Oh, we did a wound. Well, that will be it. And the end of the battle round. The Vindictors do not want to take a battle test. They're Bravery 8 with the banner. So we're rolling off again. Oh, I've rolled a 6.
So I can't possibly win.
No, so I'll go first. On Stormcast turn 3. So same command points again. Battle round starting, and then the hero phase ones, and then both can do heroic leadership, I think. So I get another one. A 3.
I don't.
I'll issue rally to the Praetors. I can't do it on the Vindictors because they're in melee. We've got 1 missing, coming back on a 6. No, not this time. And then moving like this, the Vindictors have retreated. The Lord of Quilor and the Praetors moving forward. The Lord of Quilor is going to shoot at, I think we'll shoot the Hobgrots. Just trying to get all. And 3s, yep. And 3s. They're all dead. And then his charge, he's in with a 6, he's going into the Loonboss, and the Praetors just about manage a 3 to get into the Gut Rippers.
So I will do Scare Shields from the Gut Rippers on the Praetors. Nope, not with a 4.
So the Praetors go in over to the Gut Rippers, the Lord of Quilor is going to charge like that, and I'll pick the Praetors to go first. 10 attacks hitting on 3s, that's 9 hits. And wounding on 3s, we've got 5 wounds.
5, 6 plus saves. Oh, he only made 1, so they're all dead. 5 attacks on 3s.
For the Loonboss, this is.
Tired now. 2, 3s, 1 wound.
It's 4 plus save for the Lord of Quilor. He made it. He has 5 attacks back with his sword and axe combined on 3s. 3. And winning on 3s as well. 2 wounds.
5 pluses. Oh, he's still alive.
Oh, we've got the Griff Charger as well. On 3s, gets 2 hits. And 3s. 2 wounds, so minus 2.
6s. No. 6 plus ward. No.
Oh, so the Griff Charger's taking that.
So I could replace my general with another hero, but I'm just going to concede because a lone Cruel Boys hero is going to have a bad time.
Yeah, you might have to take that 1 unit or something, but there's quite too many things here, really. Yeah, so we'll call that one a Stormcast victory and recap it for you now. So that was the game for issue 24 of Warhammer Age of Sigmar Stormbringer magazine. How did you think that one went?
Yeah, not great, to be honest. It all just turned into a stand-up fight, and I think we've established Stormcast tend to win those against the Cruel Boys and their little goblin friends. So if it's coming down to raw dice v dice, I think the Stormcast would win.
But yeah, I mean, just winning priority every turn and being able to charge. Not that they helped the Lord of Quilor, whose finest hour didn't quite go to plan when his Griff Charger refused to actually charge, but that was a minor blip and it didn't matter anyway.
Yeah, to be honest, I think that just prolonged the game. You would have steamrolled the Hobgrots quicker.
Yeah, it didn't make any difference in the end. And yeah, your Bolt Boys didn't have any real impact. I mean, obviously I shot them because they're dangerous. That was the point.
Yeah, and there wasn't really anything I can do to stop you shooting at them.
Yeah. Well, actually, the finest hour did help against that because it meant I was wounding on 2s, so that did help against them at least. And the Loonboss's finest hour did also let him wound a couple of times that he wouldn't otherwise. So yeah, obviously, well, we learnt quite a few rules though, so let's probably talk about those a bit more than the game. Heroic actions we've already mentioned. You might as well do them. They're free. I think a lot of the time, particularly in the earlier stages of the game, heroic leadership is just obvious. Not so much here, actually, because we didn't have anything to spend our command points on, but we'll get to that in a minute. But,
yeah, or heroic willpower if your opponent has a lot of wizards.
Yeah. Heroic recovery is obviously useful if you have a wounded hero who's not in melee. Yeah, and if their bravery's high enough. So it's not actually very good on the Loonboss with bravery 5, but it's quite good for Stormcast, I suppose, being high bravery generally. And then I suppose their finest hour is actually the most tactical of all of them, because when you actually choose to use it with a given hero, can have a big impact if that hero is a powerful one particularly.
And heroic leadership also means it's not the end of the world if your general dies. Fortunately, even though you got tons of command points, we only had one command ability to use, and it could only be used if units weren't engaged, and units were engaged most of the time. I mean, there will be cases where we use it, but it's going to get you, on a big core unit, it's going to get you back at 2 or 3 models, maybe 4 or 5 if you're very lucky. Some units do have abilities that make rally activate on 5s or 4s. Don't know if we get any with the collection specifically that have those rules.
And obviously it works best on big units that have taken quite a lot of casualties, because...
Or units that have multiple wounds, so it'd be better for Gut Rippers, and really the Gut Rippers like the prime unit. Fortunately for the Stormcast, most of their units are going to be 5.
Even if you've taken 4 casualties, they're still not likely to get more than one back. I mean, a whole Stormcast back can be important, but it's not going to be a priority. It will be more useful for larger units.
If you've only got 2 command points to spend, probably not going to use it to rally to try and get a Praetor back.
And of course we will get some more command abilities. I mean, one's already been mentioned, all out attack, that the Loonboss can benefit from himself, and also other Moonclan units.
Yeah, we'll probably talk about that when he has the chance to actually use it.
Yeah, but there are quite a few more cool ones, and a lot of heroes also have, some heroes also have their own bespoke command abilities that will be detailed in their war scroll. So again, I don't know if we get any of those with the collection, but yeah, there's also some rules like the Lord Imperator who lets you use them for free. Like heroic actions, they're also kind of free. I mean, you do have a command point limit, but as you've seen, you can generate quite a few. So particularly in smaller games, you can almost always use the one you want to when you need it.
Yeah, although it is worth noting that only specific the unit has to be able to issue a command, and the unit has to be able to receive it, and you can only use each one once per phase. So it does mean things like if a unit leader has been killed or snatched, say, by a snatcher crew, that does limit the number of people you have around to actually issue orders.
Yes, and things like the Marshcrawler Sloggoth and the Chariot do not have a unit leader, so they don't count as their own unit leader. It has to actually be specifically mentioned as being a unit leader on the war scroll to be able to issue commands to themselves, so they can't do that.
Yeah, and the Loonboss doesn't synergise all that well with the rest of his army being Cruel Boys. On paper, I guess he's got a higher damage output than a Killer Boss, potentially. I mean, he could do 15 damage in one go. He's not super durable with only a 4+ save. A 6+ ward might save him a wound now and again. He's going to have a bad time against Stormcast most of the time, I imagine. And Bravery 5 isn't too bad. It's just going to be bad recovery. To be honest, I think his main selling point is that he's very cheap in terms of points. So we probably won't learn about that with the magazine. So, I mean, his thing to give all 6s to wound, a mortal wound in addition, is actually quite good on a big unit of Moonclan. And we do get at least one unit of 20 Moonclan Grots. So even if you can do, there's a high potential for damage there.
Yeah, he can.
And honestly, I think he's probably most useful for sticking near the back and protecting a unit like the Bolt Boys.
Yeah, because he's not trivial to charge with a unit that isn't already powerful in melee. He can actually win fights against some things, even Vindictors potentially.
Yeah, and I mean, if you put Finest Hour on him and then issue all out attack to himself, he'll be hitting on 2s and wounding on 2s, which isn't anything to sniff at, and potentially doing mortal wounds as well.
Yeah, again, while it does seem weird to have just him with all the Cruel Boy stuff, this is technically a destruction collection, and this will become more common that we have mixed armies in the future.
Yeah, and we do get quite a few Gloomspite Gitz units as well.
Yeah, and again, as far as we know, the magazine does say that we can use any battle traits on anything that apply, even when we have mixed armies. And the wording, at least that the magazine gives for Dirty Tricks, Noisy Racket specifically, does seem to mean that it would apply to him. So
yeah, they might expand on it because we do get some more. We'll probably get some more battle traits because the Gloomspite Gitz have their own one, which I think pretty much only affects them. Just wouldn't affect the Cruel Boys at all.
Yeah, well, I suppose the Noisy Racket is a big noise, so it doesn't necessarily matter who the noise is affecting the enemy units, I suppose, effectively, rather than being a buff to the... Well, and then his model... Well, I mean, he looks really tall for a grot, but it's just because he's standing on some huge mushrooms.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you know he's important. He's standing on something.
Yeah.
Yes, he does look a bit like a lawn ornament, possibly due to the fact that I painted his moon helmet yellow.
Yes, I mean, he does look sort of comical, but I think that's kind of the point with grots.
I think the Gloomspite Gitz are a bit of a meme army, so...
Yeah, there's definitely some comedy elements. And we'll get more of those with the collection, actually, with the bouncing squids and everything. But, I mean, his moon mask face thing, I'm sure he thinks it looks really fearsome. It's kind of just a bit silly, but he's a grot, so it's not that... I
mean, he's got a scythe as big as himself.
And his sort of pointed armoured shoes are quite funny as well, but... And then random mushrooms growing on his back. And as usual with these character models, actually quite good value. He's a tiny model, but... You pay quite a lot of money for him if you buy him by himself.
I think he's something bizarre like £19, I think. I think it might be a web store only model as well.
Yeah, so you're still getting him for half price or better with this magazine, so that's still a pretty good saving if you actually want that model. But anyway, I think that'll do it for this video and this issue, so let us know what you thought in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. Let us know what your plans are for the collection, if you've been starting to get models from different factions, that sort of thing. If you're going to keep all of them or just collecting one faction. We've been the Tabletop Donkeys, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye for now.